This is the original hatchery where everything started. I'm bringing this to you guys so you guys get an idea where everything originally started in 1997. I know I'm going to be speaking to you, but I wanted some of you guys from California to see where everything originated. This is the original hatchery that I opened up with Jack. And as you can see around here, we got all kinds of fish now. It's not just discus. It's everything. It's turned into a giant pet shop. But basically, to give you a perspective, this is the small operation, which is the original one. And this place holds 325 tanks. And the volume here is about 13,000 gallons, thereabouts. We have Ultims. The Ultim season just started. It started on July 15th. These just came in. We have tank-raised neons. We bring in aquatic plants, a ton of them. We have access to the Florida Aquatic Nursery, and we also have access to another one up in Tampa called something Scapes or whatever, but Waterscapes. Thank you, Alex. And so here we keep a little bit of everything. These are clients that switched over and they want us to give away or sell their fish for them, and so we house them rather than throw them in the local rivers or whatever. We don't like that. And then these are back rooms. There's no office in this small place where we keep a lot of the discus. And you can see some of the yellows, some of the blues, always intent on eating. That's how we like to keep them nice and healthy. Basically, this is, like I said, where the business started in 1997. And now luckily, you know, we have the other facility, which we're gonna take you in a little bit. And I'm gonna go back down and show you more of this place. This is actually neons and rummy nose tetras. We bring in about 5,000 a week on these. And then this was originally the entire breeding section where we kept 70 breeding pairs going all year long. Now we have some pairs here, some pairs at the new facility, and some pairs up on West Palm. And you can see how we're running out of space here because of all the fish that are coming in. And it's okay, Alex just wanted to show himself. So you get an idea of who Alex is. And we also bring in, I don't know if you can see on top, the Manzanita driftwood. That usually we hold for the locals here because it's a pain in the butt to ship those huge pieces out. And basically the big RO unit that we've always used, we have one in each facility. These things do about 20,000 gallons a day. And then you get to see some of the display tanks where we keep some of the Ultims, the larger Ultims from seasons ago. These things gotta be at least 12, 14 inches. And then the display tanks. And what I'll do now is I'll go over to the other operation and I'll show you that place, which is only like 8 blocks away. So you can get an idea of the 2 facilities at once. So bear with me. There you go. All right, guys, this is hatchery number 2. This is where we do most of the shipping out of. I am going to take you in this direction only because, as you guys know, we make our own beef heart. So we keep the krill meal by tons. We keep the garlic, the spinach, the salmon, all in big freezers. And when we're gonna operate and make everything, this is the tables where we slice up and clean up. And then this is the infamous food processor, which realistically is called the Buffalo Chopper. And this will do 50 pounds in less than 3 minutes, which saves us a lot of time. Actually, production here is faster than weighing it out pound by pound, which is what we normally do in this area. In this area, besides the jet ski, which goes out probably every 15 days or so, whenever I get an opportunity to take it out, we also have the California live blackworms. And since we're here, we're gonna show them to you And we keep these guys around 40-degree water temperature. We have a chiller on this system. So this is my cold bath for the day. That's about as much as I want to have cold hands. And remind me about New Jersey. And then the rest of the operation, obviously, we keep the beers, very important. Okay? That's how we keep the business running. And then we're going to take you over to this side and show you, this is where we process the orders. And as I bag up the Discus, my guys staple the bags to make it quicker. And then all these boxes, everything. I know right now it's a little messy, but this is where we do all the processing of 150 orders on a daily basis. And then we have a couple of, because remember, we're hobbyists at heart, let's face it. We have a couple of display tanks here. This is one that a client brought in that he was going to throw away because he ended up getting a 150, so we upgraded. And it was just laying here, and some of these tanks as well. You can see that we've done a few little things, put a few little fish. And we don't want to put Discus in any of these because bottom line is you got to do a lot of maintenance. But here at least once every 3 days, we do a major part water change. And then I want you to come into the main facility, and please forgive the sound of the aerators. But this is where we keep the Discus, and you'll see constantly looking for food, and that's the way we like to keep them. Some of the albinos down here. And here, everything changes. This is now twice the size of the one that you just came from, or that I took you to. And in this facility, there's 525 fish tanks, and there's 25,000 gallons of water. So it's double the size of the other facility. But here I can work without having people walk in and interfere, which is fine. That's the way we did it for 18 years at the other place, until we finally got this place. And now we do shipping out of here 4 days a week. And then we're open to the public Fridays and Saturdays. And today is Friday, which is when I'm doing the video for you. And you can see this whole wall is 90s and 75s. And we'll take you to the end. K1 reactor, which we put together along with a sump and 120 watt UV sterilizers. And these acrylic tanks basically house all the Peruvian, Colombian, Brazilian stuff. So the Placos go here, the Ottos, the Cories, some of the Cories. And there's 32 125 gallon tanks in this system. And so I'll take you around. It's going to get a little noisy because the fans are on. We keep the place warm for the fish. 2,000 gallon holding tank for the RO water. Big water softeners to soften up the well water. And then as you can see, if we come on this side, this is the opposite side where the acrylics are. And then there's 200 of the 20 gallon tanks, which were primarily going to be for breeding, but now we're housing 5,000, 10,000 cardinals, rummies, cories, some of the gold venison barbs that we're importing. So we can bring you guys better prices on everything. We just received 5,000 orange lasers. And this is how we keep, I know a lot of people say, how can you sell so cheap? There's no middleman. I'm bringing all the stuff in direct. So it's South America, Miami, Miami to you. And that's how we like to do it. We got Geos, we have Rummy Nose, we have Rainbows, which are raised here in Florida in the Tampa farms and save us a lot of money because there's no shipping involved. They literally bring them down to us. We keep in here cherry barbs, albino cherry barbs, rams. As you can see, more fans, and I'm hoping you can hear me through all the wind. Okay, we get closer to the aerators, and those are the ones that provide oxygen to the entire operation. That's actually the lungs of the entire hatchery. We just got in a shipment of Pepe greens from Peru. We got in about 350 of them. You can see them. I know I posted a couple of videos on Facebook so you can see them. Here's some of the breeding pairs that you can see here. Some of my guys are cleaning right now, which is fine. I won't take you very low down there because it's all basically the same thing, just different types of fish. But you can get an idea of how big this facility truly is. And these guys spend the entire day doing water changes while I hand select at the front over there. So I'm hoping you enjoy, and I'm hoping you have a lot of questions for me because I'm here to answer all your questions. So start asking questions, please. There you go.
You got the nickel tour. I think the best way was to bring that video to you guys so you guys could see the two facilities. Because everybody wants to go in on Saturdays and not Sundays. Sundays we're off. But Fridays and Saturdays, when you walk around the facility, you start hearing people talking to each other, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, we just drove down from North Carolina. We just drove down from Jacksonville. We just drove down from Orlando." And it's always people coming in on the weekends because I guess they take the entire weekend, they stay overnight or whatever, but they want to see the facility. And I understand. You know, I drove 5 hours to go see Discus back in 1991. And I know exactly how they feel, and I've never lost that feeling. So that to me is holy ground for you guys. And I'm the guy holding the chapel. Okay.
When did you open the second one?
It was right after COVID.
Because I flew in on, I was on business to and from south of Miami in the Caribbean. I dropped into Miami, drove up to see your facility, you gave me a great tour, and then I went back to Toronto where I lived at the time.
Okay. Yeah,
so
yeah.
exactly what you described.
Yeah, it took us.
And I brought Discus home in my little big carry-on in the overhead. One of the bags leaked on top of me. Brought it back to Canadian Customs. The guy said, "What's this?" I said, "They're fish that only survive in 80-degree water." He said, "We live in Canada." I said, "I agree." He said, "I don't care," and off I went.
Nice. Now they take them away from you.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just had a shipment.
I live in California now, so.
Okay, I just had a shipment go up. The guy picked them up in Buffalo and tried to drive them across the border, and they took them away from him.
Yeah.
And it's stupid because they're not invasive fish. They're nothing. They're just, you know.
It also depends on how well you know what you're bringing across and what attitude you have.
Exactly.
But things may have changed since I used to.
Yeah, no, and the guy was completely lost. He couldn't give him the scientific name, even though it was written on the invoice and everything, you know, but it happens. It happens. There's a million stories we can go over, and that's not what we're going to talk about today.
You want good news.
Yes, exactly. Go ahead.
How many workers do you have?
Right now we have 4 and about 15 volunteers. But these guys, every one of the employees is ex-cut clients. So they would come in on a regular basis every other week, every week, till finally they came up to me and said, "Hey, do you need somebody to work for you? Because, you know, we love to be here anyway." And now to get paid on top of it. So most of them have been with me for about 8 or 9 years. That's when I switched over to Gabe can't do it all himself. And it's actually going very well because now that Gabe can't do it all himself, Gabe has more time to come, fly in, talk to you guys, fly out, and do 108 orders that I got for Monday. But I get their help.
I see some of the fish was in quarantine. How long do you quarantine?
When I bring stuff from South America, I pay more to have them quarantined down there. Okay, so they're willing to do it for me. They know what they need to do, and they do it. When I receive them, I put them through a minor quarantine. What does that mean? They're gonna get scratched up. I don't want to send those fish to you. So I put them in acroflavin and salt. I get them going. You could see already that the Tetra greens were looking for food. All they got fed for the last 3 months was flake food. So now that they're getting to the beef part, it's like, hey, we want to stay here. We don't want to go back to the wild. We were starving over there. So yeah, so most of the stuff, the Ultums, the wild Discus, we're having issues with Brazil. We can't get anything out right now. Their agriculture department is on strike against the government, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. They're both the government. But they're on strike, and they've been on strike for 2 years. Without their signature, we can't get a health certificate, we can't get anything out. So right now we're trying to get stuff from Peru, from Colombia. They have real nice fish. Obviously no heckles or anything like that, but it is what it is. We're dealing with it.
For your breeding tanks,
Yes.
actually for your big tanks, I saw you had like individual siphons in there, probably for ease of siphoning and disease. But for the breeding tanks, how do you water change and siphon those? Do you have one that goes in each one, or is it each one has a separate?
You notice that they're 1-inch hoses and then 1-inch barbs or whatever. If you were to try to do that on the 20-gallon tanks, there wouldn't be any room to walk. So what we do is we have a 3/4-inch long hose, which is gonna go and do 10 tanks on top and 10 tanks on the bottom. And then you have another hose that does 5 this way and 5 the other way, and then so on and so forth. So one little hose will do all of them, and since they're high, they're real simple. Cross-contamination I'm not worried about, because they're all on the same system, on a 200-gallon system. You know what I mean? And the reason why we do that, I know back in the day, it's a funny story, and I know you guys think that Jack never said a 4-letter word in his life, but I had the privilege, being from New Jersey, to listen to him. And the first day that I set up the original hatchery in 1997, the first thing that went up was the breeding system. And from the front door to the back, which is only 65 feet before you go into that back office, he must have said the fuck word like 6 times. And it was just mumbling, like, shit, damn it, what? And when he got to the end, he turned around and he says, are you out of your mind? If one pair gets sick, they're all gonna get sick. And I said to him, how many hoses do you have in your hatchery? You have 1. You're going from one tank to the other, to the other, to the other. You're taking water from the pairs that are breeding and putting it on the ones that are not so you can stimulate them, and you're asking me about a central system? And he looked at me and he said, I can't argue with you. I can't. It's impossible. You just don't understand. And I said, Jack, listen to what I'm telling you. You don't have a separate hose for each tank, you're contaminating also. All right, we don't want to talk about that. What else did you do? And it's funny because it makes sense. When one breeding pair spawns, I don't get 1 spawn. I get 18. And then the next week I get another 32. Because in the wild, that's how they do it. They're in the river, they spawn, they release pheromones, they release hormones, they release everything. And it triggers everybody to start spawning at the same time. There's strength in numbers. And that's how we do it at the same place. Same exact way. Go ahead.
Can you walk us through your process once you have wigglers? Once you separate them, and like what does that water change, what does that feeding look like for the parents, and then once they become wigglers, and then once they get to a 3 or 4 week stage where they start dropping off, whether it's from flukes, like what's your medicine regimen for that?
Okay, normally what we do is once they hatch out and start free swimming, we leave them on the parents for a week. Now the parents get fed constantly, okay? Obviously not a lot, but enough for them to maintain themselves and not eat the babies. And so for the first week, we don't feed the babies at all. The babies eat off the body stock. That's it. Once that first week goes by, we immediately start hitting them with brine shrimp. And that's when they take the brine shrimp like that. And it also alleviates the parents. I mean, you don't want 300 baby mouths eating on you all day long. It hurts. So by putting in the brine shrimp, we're filling them up and giving the parents a little bit of a break. We go through that for a week. Then after that, we go to dry foods, very thin dry foods like the probiotics that Tropical makes and stuff like that. Maris makes it, everybody makes it. You know what I mean? High protein, that's what you gotta feed. Very little, so you don't have to do that many water changes. When they do have babies, a lot of the times what we do is we use these little tiny hoses, 1/4 inch, and we go in there and we siphon. Now the good parents know that when you're in there, remember we were talking about the vibrations? They vibrate to let the babies know that there's danger. So all the babies huddle up on them. And they'll literally move them away as you go through the right side, and as you start going to the left, they'll go to the right. And it's that simple. I mean, it's simple. You can't get too scientific on this. And then once we see that the babies are going down and eating the beef heart, that's the trigger. The first day you're gonna get 3 or 4 that are gonna go down. The second day you're gonna get 18. The third day, they're all at the bottom. They're waiting for you to throw in the beef fart. Look at the parents. Parents come right out. During this whole thing, once a week they're getting hit with potassium permanganate. And I have a video about that. But I'll tell you, if you don't want to get crazy, because potassium permanganate is a double-edged sword. It can kill everything. Take 11 grams of potassium permanganate powder and put it in one of those drinking water bottles, the ones that's at 500 milliliters, and that's your stock solution. And from there, you take 1 cc with a syringe for every 5 gallons. So every day or every other day, you'll see my guys going with a syringe with 5 cc's on each 20-gallon tank. And that's how you keep the flukes at bay. And that's how you keep everything external at bay. Because remember, there's so many of them that they create their own bacteria. And the bacteria multiplies once the organic load goes up. Okay?
Do you have any, like, in my case, I fed brine shrimp to my fry, and the next day I found 50 of them dead. When I don't feed brine shrimp, I feed different food, they're fine.
Artemia or brine shrimp?
It's from brine shrimp, I'm sure.
Adult brine shrimp?
BrineShrimpDirect.com. So I get
But
it.
is it the eggs that you hatch out?
Yeah, I hatch out with the salt water.
They're eating the shells.
So that's
When
what
you put them
caused
under a microscope and open them up, you see the eggshells like regular eggshells cased
Yeah.
one on top of the other all through the gut.
So what we can do to prevent that?
Decapsulate the brine shrimp.
Correct. Yes. That's one way of doing it, and that's the best way of doing it. The other one is you're gonna have to start doing the magnesium sulfate, Epsom salt, and that's just like, X-Lax. And that'll clean them all out completely. Go ahead.
You've got RO and you've got well water. And what is you're looking for some target TDS or hardness and pH?
The well water in Florida comes out at about 1,580 microsiemens and 9.8 on the pH. All right. Moses didn't need to part the water in Florida. He could have walked right across it. All right, I'm serious. So we go through the water softener first, and then from the water softener we go through that giant RO, and we strip everything out. So we go from 1,580 to about 45. And when you go with the TDS meter or the microsiemens meter into my tanks, they're about 80, 85, and you wonder where the hell is this hardness coming from? Well, when I make up the beef heart, I put salmon, I put spinach, I put garlic, I put krill meal, and I put multivitamins. You've seen the video. Multivitamins have minerals in them, whether they eat them or don't. I mean, most of us take multivitamins. What color is the toilet in the morning? Coming out. In their case, they're urinating it in the system, so it's bringing up the conductivity. We just got to stay on top of it and do water changes. That's why we change out 15,000 gallons in the big facility and 10,000 in the older facility a day.
What kind of pH? Is it multi-vat that you or RO? You're changing water fast enough that the pH is not going to jump around.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But just in case, I keep the ash around, the sodium carbonate, and you need very little of that. For 1,800 gallons, we use a teaspoon. And it adds just enough carbonate hardness to maintain it stable and bring it up a little. Like I start worrying around 5.5. Anything below 5.5, the sperm cells start to die. And then, I got great conductivity. Yeah, well, what's your pH? Oh, it's 4.9. Well, no wonder. So you gotta have like a balance. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have the proper pH and the proper hardness for those eggs to hatch. And now a lot of the angelfish guys are having problems where the eggs are not hatching. And
Why?
I don't know, because angelfish are like rabbits. But it's happening, and they're coming in to buy the RO units to see if maybe it's the hardness. And remember, the municipal water companies now are changing all the waters around. They're taking everything out and then putting stuff back in, just so that it doesn't eat away at the pipes and stuff like that. And we don't know what they I can call and ask. Half of them will tell me, and if they're my clients, they'll tell me. The other half will tell me to go fly a kite. Yeah.
So I know salt water is good for hatching. Can you raise discus in harder water?
You can raise them in hard water, sure. Raise them, not breed them. Yeah. I read an article. There used to be a little like it would come out quarterly. It was called, it's still around, I think, Discus Brief. And I remember reading it back in 1991, 92, before I got together with Jack. I bought the Discus from him, but I didn't really get together with him until 93. And in the Discus Brief, this German guy would breed at 40, and once they hatched, he would bring it up to 1,200. Immediate. Like it would take him 3 days to go to 1,200. And the guys were asking why? Why? And the guy, I remember he said, when you go swimming in a river with fresh water, don't you have to paddle like crazy? When you swim in the sea, you don't really have to paddle. The buoyancy is there. So he figured it out that higher conductivity actually helped out the babies because they didn't need to waste that much energy to float around. If your water is real soft, they sink like torpedoes. So in our cases, we have sponge filters along with central systems. Sometimes I shut them down. So no more water is coming in, and I can actually raise the hardness if I see that they're torpedoing. You know what I mean? That's why the sponges are there. A lot of guys ask me, why do you have sponges when you have a central system? Here's the secret right there. Because once you shut it down, you still have some little biological going. That and the fact that we're doing water changes. So we have to bounce around. We have to make believe we're breeding salmon instead of discus. You know how salmon are raised in freshwater and then go out to sea? Same principle, basically. Go ahead.
Question, how much of your business is discus? You have obviously a lot of other fish. And are you finding it challenging with all the imports that come out being produced in the U.S.? Is that challenging to compete with the imports that are flooding in, or is that not an issue?
If I was going to go into business today, I wouldn't last a month. I wouldn't. You can't compete. There's no way in hell when people are calling you up on the phone from Malaysia, Singapore, wherever, and they're telling you that their employees are getting paid $1.78 a day, and after they're done in the hatchery working their asses off, they go home and clean the houses for the $1.78 a day. This is why Stenker went out of business in Germany. He came out with this cockamamie thing how people shouldn't buy Asian discus because they were going to get his discus fish sick. That's stupid. That's like, can you imagine going to buy a dog and the breeder tells you don't get him close to any dogs because you'll get him sick? I wouldn't even buy that dog. I wouldn't even look at it because that means that, you know, that genetically it's worthless. But he came up with this cockamamie story in order to keep his business going, and he couldn't compete. He just can't. It cost him $30 to, I know, because I know what my costs are. You know, I got 4 employees. I got $30,000 in expenses every single month before I see a penny. $30,000 is what these people in Malaysia pay every 10 years. The water is free. Third world countries, the water is free. Listen, they have city water like us with chlorine in it, and they have another water for cleaning the car and you know, putting it on your garden and stuff like that. And it comes from a river, conductivity of 40, pH 6.7. They can run that all day long. They don't even need sponge filters. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's an uphill battle if you're going to start a business. Now to answer the second part, why am I still in business after all of this? A lot of people know me. And they know how Jack Wattley's reputation and how I took over, and I've been in it for 30 years, and I keep the same. Remember, for me, it was harder for the most. If you start the business, you can run it like a dumbass. For me, I had to hold that name up high. I couldn't let that name go down. So I worked my rear end off for 30 years. But now I'm bringing in other things. I'm bringing in altos. I'm bringing in cardinals. We're selling 5,000 cardinals a week. 5,000 rumminos a week. Think about it. Think about it. I'm selling them for $2 and making probably a 300% profit. With that, I pay my expenses. Now I can afford to bring in 300 Tefe greens direct. I can bring in 5,000 orange lasers. I brought in 400 green lasers. You know what I mean? I don't have any money in the account, but son of a bitch, that bank account full of water is full. And that's what counts. And you know, for me, it's like a kid in a candy store. Look, I'm getting goosebumps. I see 100 boxes of fish, and I don't know what to do with myself. I'm beside myself. I can't wait for them to open them all up. And the other day we got some, what the hell are they? The watermelon Plecos. These things were like 16 inches long. My guys were telling me, dude, take pictures. Look at them later. Let's go, we gotta unbox all of this. You know what I mean? And when you enjoy it that much, it's not work.
Yeah.
So if anybody asks me when am I gonna retire, I retired in 1997. That's it. What are you gonna do when you retire? Enjoy yourselves?
Like this.
I'm enjoying. Go ahead.
Why don't you breed alphas?
I'm gonna tell you what. It takes 5 years for Altums to mature. The ones you saw today in that video that are 12 inches, they're 3 years old. 5 years ago, we were inspected and authorized to sell to zoos around the world. I didn't even know that you had to be inspected in order to sell to a zoo. You do, and then they put you on a list. Well, what happens is, when the people come down from the zoos, from the Detroit Zoo, from the zoo here, from the one in New York, from the one in London, they walk through the hatchery. And I had them at 4 years already waiting to pair off. There was a couple of them in a 150 that were going off to the side. They were 16 inches. Ready to go. I was already making plans. I was designing taller tanks for them, everything. And one of the curators walked in. And he said, you know, Gabe, I just set up a 5,000-gallon tank, and these Altums would look beautiful in that tank. And I was like, no, they're not for sale. He went around 3 times, came back and said, I'll give you $800 a piece for them. And I said, where's your bucket? You know what's gonna happen to the ones in the 90-gallon tank, right? It's the same thing. Somebody's gonna walk up and say, hey, you know, I'm gonna give you $1,000 for each one. And what am I gonna say? No. You can't. You can't. Have you guys seen the little albino heckeleyes, the geophagus? Yeah. I sold them to a client, and he had them for about a year. And from this, he got them like that. And he brought them all back. And every time he would send me a video, he had a black stone about that big on the bottom of the tank. And every time I saw the video, I was like, those are eggs. And he was like, oh yeah, there's a breeding pair in there, but they never take care of them. He brought them to me because they were messing around with his Altums, and he brought them to me and exchanged them for something else. They were huge. Listen to me. I got a picture of it if you guys don't believe me. The entire back wall of the 75 was covered in eggs, and it was one female. She must have laid 3,000 eggs. Somebody walked in and said, I'll give you $5,000. What do?
You say yes.
I said, give me your number, because when you start breeding them, I want to buy them from you. And that's it. And now I got local breeders breeding black rams, longfin black rams, electric blue rams, longfin electric, bubble on all of them, which some people love, some people hate. I've got them doing that. I've got them doing angelfish of all things, which I hated, but they're selling. They brought me in the other day 500 dantums. You know how long I've been looking for dantums? And this guy just shows up out of the blue. They're breeding like crazy. Can you please take them off my hands? Unbelievable. So that's what's keeping me alive, is the fact that I'm listening to the clients, and the clients are saying, hey Gabe, when we buy the Discus from you, and we go to Pet Supermarket or PetSmart and buy neons, everything gets sick. Why don't you carry the neons and the cardinals? You listen to your clients. Why don't you make the beef horn and sell it to us? Why don't you do this? We sell 400 pounds of beef horn a month. We sell 5,000 cardinals a month. Did I say that? Yeah. Now we have the neons. We sell rams. Listen, I walk in every single day. I go to ShipStation, which is the software we use to ship out. It connects through the websites, downloads, all the information's there. All I gotta put is the size of the box. And I'll see a $3,000 order, and I'll salivate, because I'll say, let's see what this guy ordered as far as Discus. And I'm going line, 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 get to the end, not a single Discus. And you look in the mirror and you say, you're a fucking idiot. You should have sold this shit years ago. It's the truth. And that's how you stay in business. You sell what people want, and you try to get it direct. Forget about buying from a wholesaler. I mean, you gotta get to that point. Remember, you need money for that. But I bring them all in from down there, and they love me. They can't wait to sell to me. They call me all the time. They call me at home. They send me videos. We got this, we got that. How many do you want? The guy from Peru just says, what day can you receive them? Doesn't even ask me anymore how many I want. They're all mine. He says, what for? What am I gonna do? Call Joe Schmo, he wants 500. That's one shipment. Another guy's gonna want 1,000. That's another shipment. I call you, I ask you what day, they're all gone. And that's it.
So are the locations open to the public, appointment, or how does that work?
The original one is open from Monday to Saturday, 10 to 5. The new one is only open to the public Fridays and Saturdays because I don't ship out there those days. So I know everybody wants to see it, and I'm not going to keep that from them. You know what I mean? And I'm there all the time, except when I'm here.
Can you talk about contamination? What's, let's say, we're buying fish from other places. When is a safe time to mix them together? What to use before that?
When you're not sure, you isolate.
Okay.
And I'm talking in a different
For
way.
how long?
A week. Once you see that they're doing well, you take a fish you can sacrifice.
Okay.
One that you can say, if this fish died tomorrow, I could give 3 shits. And you take them and you put it in the middle of it. And you hold them there. It's only going to take 3 days. If you see something adverse, like slime coming off or anything like that, now you know that they're carriers. They're immune, but they're carriers. And then what you need to do is you need to treat them to kill whatever they're carrying. And usually we do that with, if it's something like what you're referring to that everybody calls the discus plague. Yeah. Seachem Paragard, we make our own. Malachite green, formaldehyde copper, and methylene blue.
There's one medicine available everywhere. What is it called?
You guys are in California. You can't bring shit in.
I bought medication from you this weekend.
Yeah, no, I know from me. Yeah. That's why I make the joke about the long hair and the white powder.
There's this one, Riddick.
Which one? Riddick. I'm not sure if that's the one. But Seachem Paragard, you can get it on Amazon. Just keep it handy.
Seachem what?
Seachem Paragard. It's a play on 2 words. Parasite guard. It's the same formula.
Let's say in a rare event, we do notice a discus that stopped eating. How long do you treat until you kind of give up on the fish, or what's that process?
If you do the full treatment, it's 10 days with metronidazole. But make sure you get good metronidazole. You know, not for nothing, I know Doug Hill, the owner of Seachem, his product is 90% salt, 10% medication. Get good metronidazole. I sell it 100 grams for $40, and I buy it in barrels. 10-day treatment, 1 gram for every 20 gallons if you're dealing with discus. If you're dealing with anything else, it's 1 gram per 40 gallons.
Does that have a shelf life going back? Because I actually had bought some from you in just 10 days and they were perfectly fine like that?
Yes. The new batch that we just got in expires in 2029. Yeah, I go through about it. Listen, after I did that video on the metronidazole, and people literally put their noses up against the tank and said, holy shit, I got it. You know, where they could see the pinched fin, the pinched forehead, the eyes popping out, the white blue. They thought it was all normal. After that, we're dealing like in 5 barrels of that stuff every month. And it's great because it pays for my metronidazole. Remember, I got a lot of tanks I got to medicate all the time. Now, get into the habit of every 3 months, deworming. Whatever you got. You guys love to feed bloodworms? Deworm. Bloodworms are loaded with pathogens. Every 3 months, take whatever food you're going to feed and soak it in the metronidazole. And feed it to them for 2 days. It'll kill everything in its path and won't let it develop to the point where they're going to get emaciated and die.
How about gill flukes?
Gill flukes, you got to be careful. If you don't know, you're better off assuming it's not. The only way to know is if you have something dead and you have a microscope. You pull out the gill raker, you put it underneath, you see the bananas with 4 eyes, you're in like Flint. Then it's praziquantel, formaldehyde, or potassium permanganate. Yeah.
You know, I mix my tap water with RO water to get like 50 parts per million. But like sometimes I'll put in a 6.5 buffer, and so like the parts per million may start escalating. But I don't think the water's getting any harder. I think it's still the same softness.
It's getting harder.
So, I
You,
mean,
you can't add to remove. Math doesn't work that way. So if you're adding a buffer, you're adding hardness.
Yeah.
so,
You're better off not even using your RO water. Either that or start using 75% RO, 25% city, and that's more than enough. You know, these companies make a lot of money with the minerals and stuff like that. It's just that we have to spend money on so much other things that we look for ways around it. You know what I mean? Especially for me, like when I have to buy bulkheads, I gotta buy 500 at a time. Am I gonna go to the guy selling them for $1.50, or am I gonna go to the guy who's gonna give me bulk price for $1.05? Think about it. So, I'm telling you, I've tried and tested, and if you already own the RO, do more RO water, less, a little bit less city, until you get to a platform where you feel comfortable. And then remember, the aquifer is never gonna change in your lifetime. It's always gonna be the same.
what actually kills foods? It's really.
Okay. Let me tell you why they're so difficult.
What was the question?
What kills gill flukes completely? Let me tell you why it's difficult to kill them. You can literally take, and I've seen it. One day I'll pull down the video and put it on YouTube. They took the eggs from the flukes and literally put them in Clorox and held them there for a week. And then took the Clorox out and put them in water and they hatched out perfectly. They're impermeable. So when you're medicating, you're killing the adults, but the defense system is the eggs. Remember, you don't want to be extinct, and neither do they. Yeah, well, some of these things do that. The praziquantel does this. Just like when you use praziquantel for tapeworms, it doesn't kill the worm. It removes the protection against the stomach acids. And so that worm comes out flying, okay? That's why they say when you're treating for tapeworms or capillaria, you have to do water changes immediately because, they'll go right down and eat them again.
Yeah.
One more. How you mix your prazi because it's hydrophobic, and how much you use?
You need ethanol, so you gotta buy vodka.
No alcohol.
Stolichnaya.
91%.
Stolichnaya works the best. Take it from me.
Vodka.
Yeah.
Russian vodka.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
So I have two questions. How often do you keep discus? And my second question is, do you have any comments on how you differ from technology?
Everybody does it. What works for me may not work for you. And look, I've been around long enough to tell you all the stories you ever want to hear. But I had a couple come from Alaska one time, many years ago. They bought the conductivity meter, they bought the pH meter, and they bought a breeding pair of blue snakeskins. And they literally sent me a video where the pH was 9.8, the conductivity was 500, and there was 400 babies on the sides of the parents.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I'm standing here like a friggin' clown. You know what I'm saying? It all depends on the consistency of the water. That hardness may be something that doesn't cause too much of an osmotic pressure, so it's not drawing the liquid out of the egg. You see what I'm saying? Now, getting back to the other one, I feed them in the hatchery. The adults get fed twice a day, and the babies get fed 7 times a day. Okay?
Wow.
But listen, remember, I have employees that do water changes daily. Okay, so let's not compare apples to oranges. You guys are not going to do that at home.
Yeah.
My suggestion, feed them twice a day, whatever they can eat in 5 minutes. Anything after 5 minutes, you're going to notice that they swim away and they're just going to leave it there to rot.